What's up, everybody? This is Alex Christoforou with the Duran, and I have with me Alexander Mercouris, editor-in-chief of the Duran, and today we'll be taking a look at more turmoil with Theresa May's Brexit plan. Okay, Alexander, I don't really have a specific question. I just want you to just tell our viewers, what's the latest in the Brexit soap opera? I heard she had a secret deal. Now she doesn't have a secret deal. More ministers are leaving. Everything has kind of gone back now to step one, and there is no plan anymore. The Irish border dispute. What is the latest update on a story that we have been covering in detail over many videos?
Well, Alex, one can only talk about with confidence the external appearances. There's reports which appear to be confirmed that Theresa May has called the cabinet together. That's the British cabinet, the head of the British government, to next week to discuss a Brexit plan that she's going to present to them. Nobody quite knows what this Brexit plan involves, and it seems that it hasn't actually yet been worked out. She's hoping to get a deal by next week. Nobody quite seems to know what that deal is going to be. It's not even clear whether Theresa May herself knows. What we do know is that another minister today, that's Joe Johnson, who is the brother of Boris Johnson, but unlike Boris, is actually an altogether more likeable and competent man. In fact, he's generally liked across the political divide in Britain. He's resigned. He's saying the situation has become so bad that what Britain is being offered now as a result of Theresa May's mishandling of the negotiations is either the prospect of total chaos, which would be presumably a no Brexit deal. I'm not convinced that is chaos, by the way, but that's how he defines it. Or alternatively, a kind of vassalage where Britain becomes an economics and political satellite of the EU. And he says this is so completely unlike what the British people expected as a result of the referendum when they voted to leave the EU, that he thinks it's unsustainable, it won't work even if it's implemented, and that he doesn't want to have any part in it. And I think I'm right in saying he's either the 18th or the 19th minister to resign from Theresa May's government over this issue. So we have an exodus of ministers from the government over Brexit. At the same time, on the other front, it looks as if the DUP, that's the Democratic Unionist Party of Northern Ireland, that's a Protestant, pro-British, pro-Unionist party in Northern Ireland, which has been holding up Theresa May, keeping her government in office, because remember, she lost her majority in the general election last year. They say that she's betrayed them by agreeing to a deal or appearing to be prepared to agree to a deal with the European Union, which will mean that Ireland, Northern Ireland, is treated differently from the rest of the United Kingdom. And they're saying that's unacceptable to them, and they won't vote for it, which could also put her whole government in jeopardy. So it looks like chaos.
Can you, Alexander, explain a little bit more in depth for myself and for the viewers exactly what's the intricacies? What's the problem with the Irish dispute? A little bit. Explain to us what's going on here.
Right, now you have to go back, I'm afraid, many years. Everything about Brexit is complicated, but this is perhaps even more complicated than most issues, because Northern Ireland is this province, this part of Britain in the island of Ireland, if you like, in the northeast corner of Ireland, which when Ireland gained independence from Britain in the 1920s, remained British because it has a Protestant majority. Now, Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, is Catholic. The people in the north are Protestant. They didn't want to be part of a united Ireland, which would be a Catholic Ireland. Right. Now, within this province, there is a large Catholic minority which wants to unite with the South. This created a long conflict in Northern Ireland. And in order to settle that conflict, what was done, there was an agreement reached which said that there'll be self-governing institutions within Northern Ireland. It will remain part of Britain, but the border with the Republic of Ireland will be a frictionless border. There will be no border posts, no border controls, nothing like that. And this was easy to do because both Britain and the Republic of Ireland are part of the European Union. Now, since Britain is leaving the European Union, this frictionless border, in theory, cannot continue. So what happened last year was that Theresa May was persuaded by the European Union and by the Southern Irish government, that's the government of the Irish Republic, to agree that whatever kind of deal Britain came to, whatever kind of deal it made for Brexit with the EU, that frictionless border would continue. What she doesn't seem to have realised is that a frictionless border with the Republic of Ireland is inconsistent with Britain leaving the EU, because Britain will at that point cease to be part of the European single market and the European customs union. So it's not possible. So we now have these very complicated proposals which have been going back and forward, trying to somehow square the circle of the commitment that Theresa May made last year, made entirely in secret, incidentally, without really discussing it with anybody in the British government or elsewhere, which promises a frictionless border and at the same time promises a Britain which leaves the EU and is no longer a part of the single market or the customs union. It's a total mess, but it is a direct product of Theresa May's incompetent negotiating style. And it seems that what she's now moving towards is some kind of arrangement whereby Northern Ireland will retain a frictionless border with the South, but it will in some form remain part of a customs union with the EU, which will be different from whatever arrangement the rest of Britain has. And that is unacceptable to the Protestant majority of the North, who say that means we're not being treated as British citizens anymore on the same equal basis as British citizens in the rest of Britain. And they are saying that they won't continue to prop up Theresa May's government if that continues.
Where does the EU stand on this? Has the EU recommended a course of action, or have they pretty much, just stood aside and said, okay, May, figure it out? And then come to us?
They've said exactly what you have just said. They've said to Theresa May, this was the commitment you made in December last year. Now you work it out. It's for you to come to us with a proposal that we can work with and we can live with, which will, however, meet the condition of the frictionless border that you conceded last year. And Theresa May has been absolutely speared on this because, of course, she can't really reconcile the frictionless border commitment that she made last year with the demand within her own party and within Britain. I mean, the majority of British people who voted for Brexit on the understanding that this would mean Britain leaving the customs union and leaving the single market forever. So we've had this extraordinary situation where she's trying to please everybody and is ending up pleasing no one.
And what about the Republic of Ireland? What's their position on this?
Well, from their point of view, it seems as if it's non-negotiable. Now, there was an attempt a few days ago by Dominic Raab, who's Theresa May's minister, now in charge of Brexit. He went to Ireland and he said, look, we will agree to this frictionless border. We will, in other words, remain within the customs union with the EU, and we will accept the frictionless border, but Britain should have a right to end this arrangement on 3 months' notice. And the Irish said that is totally unacceptable. You cannot end it on simply giving notice to us. It can only be ended by agreement. Which, if you think through what that means, it means that Britain cannot leave the customs union with the EU without the agreement of the Republic of Ireland. And it's very difficult to see why the Republic of Ireland would ever agree to that. So again, it's disastrous negotiating tactics. She clearly didn't think it through. She didn't understand what she was committing Britain to when she was negotiating in December last year. And both the Europeans and the Irish have her exactly where they want her, in a mess.
In your opinion, Alexander, I don't know if you can weigh in on it, what should May have done? I mean, okay, she messed up.
Yeah.
Obviously, you say have her in a mess, but what should she have done to tackle this issue?
I think it's very straightforward. I don't actually think that it was ever as complicated as she made it look. What she should have said to the Europeans and to everybody, to British people, to her own government, and what should have been her policy was this. She should have said, right, Britain is leaving the European Union. That means we're leaving all the institutions of the European Union. We're leaving the customs union. We're leaving the single market. We're not going to be supervised by the European Court of Justice. We're not going to be part of any part of the European structures. That was what the referendum appeared to say. And it's the only way, logically, in my opinion, to interpret the result. But she should also have said, both to the Europeans and to her own party, we are so intermingled, this can't be ended within a few months. What we've got to do is we've got to get a step-by-step arrangement whereby we gradually disentangle all these various things. And so we should have a structured timetable, say, in the first year we will no longer be part of the European Council. In the second year we will cease to be part of the customs union and the European single market. In the third year we will no longer be accepting European regulations on foodstuffs or whatever. It could have been sorted out with a timetable over perhaps, say, a period of 5 years or even longer. And I think the Europeans would have accepted that. It would have been a clear and obvious negotiating strategy. It would have had a clear long-term objective, which is Britain leaving the European Union, and it would have set out a course to do that. But she didn't do it. And so as a result, she's got herself trapped with these very bizarre and overcomplicated concessions, which she didn't need to make to the Southern Irish and to the Europeans over the Irish border. She's trying to negotiate a permanent arrangement over the customs union and the single market. She's imposing on herself and on future governments unsatisfactory arrangements which can't be negotiated in the time available, and she's leaving Britain literally in a very bad place.
She tried to get the best of all worlds, and at the end of the day, it seems to me that she's got nothing.
Well, that's exactly right. We're going to end up in a worse situation than we were in before Britain left the European Union. And this is from every point of view, because at least whatever your feelings about Britain being a member of the European Union, at least when it was a full member of the European Union, it was represented on the European Council and in the European Council of Ministers and in the European Parliament. So at least it had a say, however limited a say, on European policies and on European regulations. What Theresa May is going to create now is a situation where Britain continues to be regulated by the EU. Its economic policies and its economic structures continue to a great extent to be decided by the EU. but it is no longer a part of the EU, so it has no say in any of these regulations or in any of these policies. It is exactly what Joe Johnson said, a state of vassalage. And I think this is an appalling mess for Theresa May to have foisted on the British people.
Okay, so Theresa May is bleeding MPs. They're leaving. There is a deadline. There is a time where, you know, the EU and the UK is going to say enough negotiating. That's in March. It's over, 2019.
Yeah.
What's next? We only have, how many months do we have? We have December. We have like 4 months.
Well, we don't have much time. We don't have much time at all. And can I just correct you on one thing? She's not bleeding MPs. She's bleeding ministers.
Sorry,
she's losing ministers. But as I said, you're absolutely right, because even if Theresa May comes up with some kind of ramshackle deal next week, it's very difficult to see that deal is going to please everybody or anybody very much. And she may struggle to get it through the British Parliament. There'll be an awful lot of people who are very angry about this. Now, will it be all sorted out and settled within 4 months? Very difficult. Now, if it's not settled within 4 months, we go into the no-deal Brexit situation. People are now saying that's a realistic possibility, a very strong possibility. Now, it's not ideal because, as I said, we would have no transition arrangements. Everything would end. All the arrangements that I said should take time to disentangle would be cut off, would be ended abruptly in March next year. But at least it would be clarity. There would be a lot of disruption. There might be a lot of chaos for a couple of months, but eventually, I have no doubt, Britain would find a way out. It might even be, in fact, I personally think it would be preferable to this perpetual mess that Theresa May has created.
Find a way out under May's leadership or not under May's leadership? Well,
this is the problem, because, of course, Theresa May, I mean, as I said, has completely mismanaged this thing. I mean, putting in charge of Brexit an administrator, because that is all she is. She's not a major political figure. An administrator who voted Remain, in other words, who wanted Britain to remain within the European Union, was a recipe for trouble. And I just cannot understand why her own party, the Conservative Party, which is overwhelmingly, its membership is overwhelmingly for leave, just doesn't see that. But it seems that whenever there's any suggestion of removing May, they cannot agree on who is to take over from her. And there's always quarrels and disputes and different individuals, each manoeuvring for position. So the result is that she goes on and on and on, with an ever worse result for Britain and for the British people. It is not just a terrible indictment of Theresa May herself. It is an indictment of the Conservative Party. And people have to say that. I mean, whatever your views on Brexit are, the Conservative Party and the Conservative government is very much to blame for the disaster that we are now seeing.
And finally, Alexander, for our viewers who are not living in the UK, and now that we've just finished with the US midterm election results, and there's been a lot of news on that side of the ocean, what is the sense in the UK? Do the citizens understand this? Do they see the turmoil? Do they understand what's going on? Is it being reported on? Is it the number one news story right now that people are focusing on?
I think that there is a minority of people, both Remain and Leave, who are extremely inflamed and interested in this. I think the majority of the British people have become completely confused because of the way in which was always, in my opinion, essentially a simple matter has been made so complicated. I think they've lost their understanding of what's happening, and they're becoming bored and fed up with it, not perhaps fully understanding what a disaster is being prepared for them. But I'm glad that you bring up the United States, because Donald Trump, whatever else you may think about him, is a strong personality. He is a leader. You may be totally opposed to him, but he's clearly somebody who defines the political situation in the United States and who has a set of policies you can either oppose or agree with. With Theresa May, it isn't like that at all. What we have is chaos and drift. And in any situation where you have a comparison between a leadership and chaos and drift, I will express my own clear view. Leadership is always to be preferred, except in the most extreme situations.
There we go. My feeling is that we will be doing more videos.
We're going to be... Alex, this story is going to run and run and run. I think we're going to be talking about this issue certainly until March, perhaps beyond March, because, I think we will see Brexit in March, but there's all going to be the overspill, what's left over from Brexit, which is going to be very messy.
Very messy indeed. Alexander Mercouris, Editor-in-Chief of the Duran. Thank you very much. Guys, if you like this video, click on the subscribe button down below and click on the notifications bell to get notifications every time we push out a new video. And go to the Duran shop, pick up a t-shirt, help support the Duran. And in the description box down below, you will find links to our PayPal and Patreon page. Please donate to us. It helps us create videos with Alexander Mercouris that we create just for you. Alexander, thank you very much once again for discussing what else? Brexit. Brexit. The story that just doesn't go away.
No, it doesn't.
All right. Until next time. Take care.
Okay.